Oh, good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 154 of Buds and Blue Jays. This is your place for all things related to the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm Jesse Burrell, joined as always by Riley McConnell, and we are live. We're live on Twitter. We are live on Facebook for the first time. So if you do not follow us there, please go do so. Buds and Blue Jays on all your social media platforms and anywhere you can find your podcasts. You can find our show, Buds and Blue Jays. Please make sure to download, subscribe, 5-star review, all that fun stuff. We have a big episode here today. The Blue Jays have filed their arbitration numbers, and we're going to go get into that, what it means. And we did not reach agreement with one certain superstar on the Toronto Blue Jays. So we will dive into that and discuss what that means for this team going forward. Plus, we're going to do some talks about the renovations. We've got some more offseason rumors, some offseason buzz, and we have a lot of fun games we're going to play in the second half of our show today. So make sure you stick along to that. But Riley, we're in the middle of January here in Canada. A lot of cold stuff, a lot of snow on the ground, but we're still thinking about baseball over on our side of the internet. How are you, man? What's going on?
Jesse, I constantly think about baseball, man. In fact,
Same.
I didn't tell you this. I was watching YouTube before we went on here, and I was actually, for the first time, came across Moneyball deleted scenes. So that was fun. That was fun for me. Some of them were not very good. I'm glad they did not make the final cut for the movie. A little bit of a mixed bag, like you said, Jesse. We're in Canada. It's January. Like, the Jays are not making a ton of moves. We try and make our own news here. I mean, there's limited things we can talk about. We're optimistic there is more to come. Like, there has to be at this point. And, with arbitration, whether players, signed a deal or could not reach an agreement, like, there are still moves that are going to be made, with inside the organization or outside of the organization. So, I mean, there'll be more to talk about. Sadly, Jesse, like, the ball started moving as soon as Shohei went to Los Angeles, and the Jays had a chance to, bounce back and make a little bit of a splash after that, which they have definitely not. We talked about it last episode. Ross Atkins, was kind of said, we're going to take one more guy. And to me, that was like, that's not enough. I get that the guys we have at our clubhouse are good ball players, but, we showed our hand in that you wanted to sign Shohei. So we can roster a championship team. And I mean, sadly to say, man, like, we're not there at this point. At this point in the offseason, we cannot say that we're not going to win the AL East with the roster that we currently have, unless guys have monster years.
Yeah, and it's tough to bank on. For what it's worth, though, we're kind of preaching patience, right, is what we want. A lot of the available free agents are Scott Boras clients. Scott Boras clients typically wait till later in the offseason, and I think the Blue Jays are kind of waiting until we get closer to spring training when players start getting worried about where are my kids going to go to school, where am I going to live for the summer, all that stuff, and maybe the asking price comes down a little bit. I bet that's what the Toronto Blue Jays are kind of hoping on here. But for us as fans, Riley, it's stressful. I hate that we're at this point in January, and the biggest thing we've done this offseason is pick up Chad Green's options and sign Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. Like, I am not thrilled by that. And we as fans and as content creators obviously want more, but patience. The big moves are coming.
Yeah, hey, Jesse, I would love to think so. I probably have a little less faith in our front office than I did. I don't hold them in the highest of regards. I think it's a tough job to have. And you're staring down the barrel of a gun as far as, like, us as fans, man. Like, the eyes are on you. And I mean, if we start next season with kind of the roster we have right now, I mean, there are going to be a lot of jeers coming from Blue Jays fans.
All right, well, let's get into the stuff on the field that has happened a little bit, and we have some kind of breaking news a little bit, something we knew that was happening, but it's happened here now, and that's the Blue Jays are going to arbitration. We've come to the following contracts with 11 players on 2024 contracts. Those players are Kevin Biggio, Genesis Cabrera, Santiago Espinal, Danny Jansen, Alejandro Kirk, Tim Meza, Nate Pearson, Trevor Richards, Jordan Romano, Eric Swanson, and Dalton Varsho. Every single one of those players was already under team control. It's just the salary that they were going to make for this season was yet to be decided. MLB Trade Rumors did a pretty good job of projecting the salaries for all these, and the Blue Jays were pretty close in those salaries. I think they went about 3% more than what MLB Trade Rumors expected, but all in the right ballpark. It's pretty much there. This doesn't affect how much money really the Blue Jays have for the rest of the offseason and all that stuff. But Riley, you will notice there is one notable arbitration eligible player that is not on this list that have come to terms with the team so far, and that is Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Riley, which means the Blue Jays are going to go to arbitration with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And I don't like the arbitration process. I think it's stupid. There have been some Blue Jays players in the past that have really gotten bothered by the arbitration process. But what are your first thoughts here, Riley, knowing that the Blue Jays and Vlad are going to an arbitration hearing?
Jesse, it's not a good look, first and foremost, man. I mean, it just shows you how far apart that management is and Vladdy's side. He's supposed to come into, he came in here when he first started his career as a potential superstar, a potential Hall of Famer, if you want to go that far. And I mean, I feel like, players aren't necessarily just given respect based off their potential and pedigree. And I'm not saying in any means he has, earned a free ride with the Blue Jays. But I mean, he certainly had a setback the last couple of years, and compared to his runner-up MVP year. And I'm sure that's kind of what Vladdy's side is arguing. And I'm sure that he's going to have a couple bounce back years, but kind of goes to show you that, the Jays don't really value him that high. And of course, hey, I get it. You're trying to save a buck. And Vladdy is,
they're a business, right?
And he's looking at himself still as the premier first baseman in Major League Baseball. And I get that too. But I like the most recent, as far as, mean, median, and mode, as far as your averages across, 4 seasons. Like I'm going with one, I like recent stuff. And, he has taken a pretty hefty step back as far as his power numbers go. So, I mean, I can understand if he's not being offered what he thinks he's valued, or his agent and his party there. But it's unfortunate that they are separated by whatever amount, because I feel like it just doesn't look good. He's supposed to be kind of the cover athlete for the Blue Jays, if you will. And, if there's any kind of animosity and disagreement, I just feel like it's not good for Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s psyche. And it adds more pressure to the situation. We're already in a little bit of trouble as of right now. And now our star player is kind of, in conflict with the management, so to speak. You're not going to war, or you're not going to war trying to find numbers for a 1-year contract. But at the same time, he's trying to get the best deal. Management's trying to get the best deal. So it's just kind of unfortunate that it's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Because like I said, obviously, if you want to call him the, the cover boy for us, he kind of is the face of the Blue Jays in a way. I feel like, he probably has the most jersey sales.
I'm wearing his jersey right now, for what it's worth.
You could use that as an argument, but I mean, it's just kind of too bad, so sad. And listen, he's going to remain a Blue Jay, and you just hope that it can get sorted out quickly and as painlessly as possible, and then we could move on, and that he's, it doesn't affect him on the field, which it shouldn't, and I don't think it will.
Yeah, this is going to go either one of two ways for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Either it's going to go the way you said, they're going to go to a hearing. The Blue Jays are going to make their pitch on why they think he's not worth the money that he wants, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to make his sales of why he is worth that money. Or, and I think this might be the more likely, I guess there's two more scenarios this could go. One, the Blue Jays and Vlad are working on a massive contract extension. I doubt that. I feel like if you were going to sign Vlad to a big extension, you would have done it already. Maybe they're trying to buy low after he had a down year, and you can shed some money off that length of that salary while still keeping the massive upside. But I think what is most likely going to happen here is kind of what the Blue Jays did with Bo Bichette last season. Remember, they just bought out some of his ARB years. They gave him that 3-year kind of $60-ish million contract with escalators along the way to determine based on performance values and stuff. So I bet you the Blue Jays are probably working on a plan like that, where they can try to be like, hey, Vlad, if you hit 40 home runs this season, you'll get an extra contract boost and whatever. And a bonus if they buy out an extra year of free agency from Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but I don't think his side is going to agree to that. So we will see. I'm still waiting for news to come off to see what side the Blue Jays have filed at versus what side that Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s camp has filed at. But we're not getting anything about that yet. So stay tuned. Maybe it's a little spoiler later in the episode.
Yeah, man, I just hope it goes over well, because it's not something that needs to be hung out in the air for too long. It's not a good look for the Blue Jays, especially from, kind of the lackadaisicalness, and I won't say carelessness of the front office, because there's obviously some plan in place, whether it's the right plan, the plan we like. Just too bad they couldn't come to terms today.
Yeah, and we'll see. I remember Marcus Stroman has been he went to arbitration in the past, and he didn't like hearing the things. Like, no one wants to hear your boss go to your job and tell you how bad you are. Like, I don't think any of us want our bosses here at Buds and Blue Jays to come down on us and be like, Riley, subpar podcast today, man. You really didn't have it. And, no one wants to hear that, even if we're going out and doing a good job. So, I understand it, and we'll see how it goes from here. I remember in the Alex Anthopoulos era with the Toronto Blue Jays, he made a point to make sure none of his players got to arbitration, because it's hard to tell a player, hey, you're bad, you kind of suck, we don't think you're worth the money, but also, please, can you go out on the diamond and can you perform at a high level and be the very best you can? It's kind of hard to put those two worlds together, and I think any way the Blue Jays can avoid going into that hearing is a good way for us.
Company versus union, isn't that just it's hey man,
it happens everywhere, doesn't it?
It's a job. Baseball players, it's their job, it's their career. It's like any other job, except you're playing in front of 30,000 people. Like, I get it, but they're making very, very good money for what they do. I mean, I love baseball. 162 games in a year, it really does matter. And maybe a little more cash will drive a little incentive into the player. But at the same time, it doesn't matter what the guy, like, if a guy gets 2 million versus 6 million, you got to go out there and bust it on the diamond just the same.
All right, well, that's enough financial talk for me. We've talked money all offseason. The Blue Jays have a ton of it. Put some in the players' hands. Whatever. Yada, yada, yada. I want to go on to something more of the on-field fun, Riley. And the Blue Jays have announced their schedule for the 2024 season, including start times. And I'll throw it up on screen here in just a second. But it's all what you expect. We start the season on a very big road trip where we're going to go into 3 cities. We're going to go to Tampa Bay, Houston, and the New York Yankees before returning for the home opener, which would be on Monday the 8th, which I'm planning to be at this year. All the usual stuff applies, Riley. We still have the 3:07 home start times, and we still have the 1:37 start times on Sunday, and 7:07 start times pretty much across the board everywhere else. Is there anything on the schedule that catches your attention? Or
yeah, I'm going to say it right off the bat. Who the heck did we tick off to get that first 9 games to look like that? That is a tough first 9 games of the schedule. 10 games. I mean, 4 in the Trop, and then you go over to Minute Maid, and then Yankee Stadium for 3. That's a tough way to start the season. And then go home to play Seattle, who, hey, like, we were at the worst game in Blue Jays history at home against Seattle.
Don't remind me, Riley. I got on TV that day.
You still are kind of a meme for that. I'll never let that die. Like, that is a tough start to the schedule. Like, I hope that we, basically, then, when we get to spring training, Jesse and I will always preach, the top players who have already made the team play hard, but don't play carelessly and get hurt. Like, we need a healthy team going into 2024, especially with the start of the schedule looking like that, man. And I mean, we got the Yankees, basically a week and a half later, and we cut on the road for 6 more games. So I would say that's a very, very, tough April to start the year. And then going on to the season, I mean, it's still, introduced, I think, last year or the year before, where you play every team. I like it actually quite a bit. It kind of, shows, if you look at the final standings at the end of this year, I'm sure, how good the American League East is. It's tough to have great records when the Red Sox and Orioles and the Blue Jays and everyone is just beating up on each other. Now the AL East can just beat up on kind of the weaker teams. And, it's always a dogfight, man. I like it. I think it's good for the Blue Jays that they went to this scheduling. And, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pick apart, series by series, but honestly, we got to.
Well, we can.
We talked about this. If we have so much time on our hands, Jesse and I will go through a full 162 game sim mode where we just look at projected starters and just guess scores. We're going to have to start the season off really, really sharp, or we're going to fall behind in a hurry. Yeah,
some of the things I've noticed here on the schedule to pay attention to is I like that our I hate that we have to play in the Tropicana, but we finished spring training in Florida, and then we actually get to just remain in Florida to play that first series in Tampa. So there's not a lot of big shuttling. We don't have to get load the flights or anything to go north. I've also noticed in some month of September, we only play Tampa and the Red Sox each for 3 games. There's a lot of outside the division games down the stretch in the month of September there. And therefore, our games we do play against Tampa, against Boston, against Baltimore, we're going to really have to take advantage of those games. Like the Blue Jays cannot struggle in the AL East like they did quite a bit last year. The Blue Jays are really going to need to play well, and they're going to need to play well early this year if they really want to have a chance at winning the division. So like that opening 4-game series against Tampa Bay, they probably are going to have to split, if not win 3 out of 4, if they really want to prove they're serious about trying to win an AL East championship this year. Other than that, Riley, I don't see any egregious flights. Going from, I guess, LA to Chicago was a tough one. Maybe from Boston to Minnesota. But nothing too crazy. They've done a good job in terms of schedule.
Jesse, I'm looking at July. I think July is a very important month for us. The 4 games against Houston. Houston's a tough team in any ballpark. They will always be contenders no matter what. And then those 9 kind of games, San Francisco, Arizona, those 9 games leading up to the All-Star break on the road. Like,
yeah,
we're going to need that All-Star break after those 9 games. That's a good stretch of the year. And to finish 9 games, like, I don't know if Vladdy's going to be in the home run derby or Jansen's going to be in the home run derby this year or whatever. Like, I'd be okay with guys not going into the derby this year and taking that rest off, because they're going to be, I mean, by that point in the year, man, it's definitely, I've seen team friendlier schedules, especially leading up and after the All-Star break. The 9 games on the road on the West Coast, at least we're in the same time zone kind of thing, and we can adjust to that. I think that's very important too. But I mean, we're going to need the time off after those 9 games on the road. And Houston for 4 games, man, there's a lot of teams that I'm just scared to play against. The Rays in Tropicana are certainly one. And Houston, man, I don't know what it is. I know that they're, a different team than they were, but they're still, scary as anything, man. I mean, Yordan Alvarez has not had his best year in Major League Baseball yet. Altuve can still put up Altuve can still put up numbers, and their pitching staff, they don't have Justin Verlander, they don't have Garrett Cole. Sure, they've managed to get other guys.
They still have Verlander. He's still there.
Well, he's not the same Verlander, but they're still just as tremendous as they were in their 2017 cheaters whatever scandal. Their pitchers weren't cheating though, so I could say that the offense was, but their pitchers are still something else.
Big thing to note too: from May 31st to the All-Star break, the Jays only have 3 days off, and they come within a week of each other. 2 of them do. So note that that'll be a busy time. The Blue Jays are going to be tired. They might need to call up that bullpen shuttle up from Buffalo to get some more players up in there. Some other minor notes, Riley. What if I told you that Davis Schneider would be in the Hall of Fame? What would your thoughts be on that?
I'd say a little early, isn't it?
It is a little early. However, the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame has taken Davis Schneider's uniform from that hot start he had in Fenway and has put it into the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame. So if you're ever in St. Mary's, Ontario, and you're like, boy, this place is not complete until we get some Davis Schneider in here, well, now we have it. So congratulations to Davis Schneider and your momentous hot streak you had to begin a career. You are now enraged in the Canadian Hall of Fame. So congrats to you.
That's great and everything, but they must be running out of Fergie Jenkins baseballs or something to be doing right. That. Hey, it's a stretch. I get it. It's a start. I mean, I hope that doesn't go to his head, because he's got so much more to prove for any Hall of Fame. It is technically the best start in, professional baseball history in his first how many at-bats. That's impressive, but hasn't really done the team too much. It was a nice little feel-good moment at the time, but you'd like to see those turn into wins and, championship banners and commissioners awards and whatever.
Riley, if you could put any of your baseball-related items into the Hall of Fame, what would you put?
Oh, probably I scored a winning run in a Lynx game, and I jammed my finger. And this is before I was an idiot and I ran with a batting glove on. Later in my career, I would run with them closed fisted. I ran with, I jammed my ring finger on my left hand into home plate to score the winning run. And I went to the hospital because I really goofed up my finger, but I guess that batting glove, my left-hand batting glove, is a cool one. That's a hard question to ask. I don't know, man. That's one cool moment via like a piece of equipment that made it happen, I guess.
Okay, I like that. That's a good one. Mine would probably be off the top of my head, maybe my first baseball bat I ever broke. That was a good one. I don't know. I'd have to really think about that. I'll come back to that one at the end of the episode here. Riley, we do not have a ton of content here. There is a lot going on. So I thought we could kind of get a little creative in this offseason here. And let's talk about the Rogers Center. First, I want to talk about the renovations that are going on. And I will show a picture here on the screen if you are watching for us on YouTube. But basically, you can see how the renovations are coming along here. You can see they've kind of dug out some spaces. It looks basically like just the pavement and on the dirt and whatnot, and the seats are all there and the things. But the renovations are happening. I'm not exactly certain what plans are for stage 2 of the renovations here and see what they want to go on. But the stuff is doing work, Riley, and it seems like Rogers Center is going to look a little different this year. This brought to my attention then, if the Blue Jays really should change some things outside of the stadium, like it doesn't really feel like the true ballpark experience. It kind of feels like you're just walking downtown Toronto and then you stumble into this big white dome. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, yeah, there's a baseball game being played here. This is cool. But outside of the stadium, there isn't really a lot of cool baseball related events going on. So I was thinking, Riley, if you were in charge of rearranging downtown Toronto to make it feel more of a baseball zone, what would you do?
So first of all, I mean, hey, it's Toronto. It's a big city. You can't just implement and put things just willy-nilly.
Of course.
So I was gonna look at this more like a civil engineer and architect kind of deal. Like, so around the ball, one thing I love about the Rogers Center, and I said this before the show about kind of things you do outside the ballpark. You like to go to the craft breweries and get one of those things and whatever you people do. I personally love to go and get, the first thing I do as soon as I spy a cart is I'm going to get a hot dog. There's enough hot dog carts. Gotta be. And never buy the cheap hats outside. I know the cheap hats are they're not the real new era type hats. Mm-hmm. I guess if anything, like aesthetically, the Rogers Center outside, it's got the one fountain by like gate 7, 8, 9, but like aesthetically, it's not that nice, and it's hard to just add greenery, shrubbery, outside in the middle of a city. I guess you could put more kind of Blue Jay stuff. What actually would be a smart move, if I was to put anything, it would be some sort of an awning towards the entrance, because we all have been there. It's, an hour before the gates open, an hour and a half if it's a good bobblehead. And you want to get in for the giveaway, so you come early. But of course, we got a dome. It closes. Like, they're playing in rain or shine, and we're standing outside of the stadium, rain or shine, and sitting and get teamed on by rain for an hour and a half is not fun. So maybe some sort of awning. Not saying the whole outside of the ballpark.
Put a roof on downtown Toronto, right?
some sort of checkpoint, and there's kind of a roof like they have in Canada's Wonderland, the whatever else. But I don't know. Like, I'm more into the inside the ballpark. Like I was saying, you go and have a pop before the game, and I go and I get a hot dog. But I want to get into that ballpark. I want to catch any second of batting practice I can. Do my lap around the 500s or wherever I am. But I got a hot dog and I got a beer just to save, and I'm watching things. But what would be cool is to kind of have activities, not just for kids, but for guys like this, guys like us. And I love those kind of like, it's golf town, but for baseball, where the ball shoots out of the ground, you hit it, and you hit the ball into a projector. And it's, it projects where, like, you hit it in the left field 370 feet or whatever, like something like that. Like, or you said, guess your pitch speed. That's pretty cool too. Things like that, like kind of like interactive fun games are always the way to go.
Yeah, the Blue Jays just need more of a feel outside of a baseball game. Like, the electricity is high. It's there. They have all that going on. I just wanted to make it feel more like a baseball thing. And you know what the Blue Jays really, honestly, actually do need outside of their stadium is we need a trophy of some kind. Like, they have the trophy of Ted Rogers sitting there. like that's not doing it. We need some like historic Blue Jays moments. Get Joe Carter with his hands up in the air after he hit that home run. Get Dave Stieb after he threw his no-hitter. Like I went to Pittsburgh last May, Riley, and they have like a Honus Wagner statue. They have a Roberto Clemente statue. There is like a different vibe, even in Pittsburgh, going through and watching these games than they do and they have in Toronto. And I really would like Toronto to get more of a ballpark feel, whether it's playing these games, doing all these things, or having players. The banners are cool. I like that, but I'm not a fan of the aquarium, and like the rec room is okay, but if you want to stand shoulder to shoulder next to someone at St. Louis Bar and Grill, like you can go do that. The Blue Jays should really look at doing more outside of their stadium to really give it a true ballpark feel, and that's what I want to see something more of from the Blue Jays this year.
I get it, man. I totally get it, because you got on one side, it's like, hey, you got a jellyfish statue, or you got a Willie Stargell statue. I mean,
right.
Leading up to it, it's, should be more baseball, actually. And I think the fans and kind of the hype staff, if you want to call them that, I really like the drummer that they have.
The drummer's good. I like him. Yeah.
He might be the best part of, outside. The street meet and the drummer are two of my favorite things. I love listening. He interacts with you. He's a great drummer, and his kit is, just like a few pieces. He's a hype man. I like that kind of vibe. But yes, aesthetically, not a ton going on, man. I can only look at the train across the road. I can only glance over at it 30 times while I'm waiting in line.
Yeah, and they have the girl that plays the saxophone too on the way to the Skywalk. Like I think she does a good job there going through there. But I don't even think those are Blue Jays employees. I think they're just panhandlers trying to get some money going through. And it's like, I really wish you'd see more out of that, Riley. All right. We're moving on to the second half of the episode, Riley, and I thought we could have a little bit of fun. So I'm playing a game here called What Are the Odds, where I'm going to go out and say a sentence, and then you're going to tell me some are more likely to happen than others, and you're basically going to tell me, hey, is what the odds are on this. But Riley, before we get into that game, I want to start with a little love to Buck Martinez, because Buck Martinez famously, especially as he gets older in age, always has his blunders, right? And I had this thought when we signed Isiah Kiner-Falefa to the team this year. How many different ways is Buck Martinez going to pronounce Isiah Kiner-Falefa differently this season? I put the over-under at 3.5, Riley. Do you think he's going to have 4 different pronunciations, or do you think he's going to nail it?
I think he's going to have a couple, and I think he'll probably suffer from, how I would say it if I'm doing it fast. I wouldn't say it's hard to get the name Isaiah out really clean.
Yep.
I feel like more often than not, I say Isaiah.
Okay, yeah.
Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. Like, I think he'll know that. I think it'll be little tweak words. But when you got a hyphenated last name, that's double the room for error in a broadcaster's point of view. I mean, Buck isn't that bad, but he's certainly not the best at pronouncing every single name. So I'm gonna take the under. I'm gonna take the under.
Okay, you have some faith in Buck Martinez, eh? He was very
guy.
Yeah, he was very classic for saying Teoscar Hernandez, not Teoscar Hernandez. He was taking Teoscar and Hernandez and kind of jamming it into one word. And every time I heard Buck Martinez say that, it would make me, at first I snickered a little bit, and then I'm like, come on, show the man respect. Say his real name, Buck. Come on. But
Jesse, real quick, that is a common thing, and I'm going to go a little off script here. Jesse,
sure,
that is just a thing we do. I got a quick little story, and us people from Prince Edward County and the way we talk, apparently there's a word and phrase we say outside. First of all, I didn't realize that we say Balville, like with a bunch of U's in it. I don't say Balville. There's too much mouth going on there. The other one is when you're driving down 62 and you go into the no cell phone reception area, we say rock cut. We combine the two words. It's not rock cut, it's rock cut. So you're combining the two words. It's a short form. Teoscar Hernandez, love it. You're just trying to get the point across as quick as you can.
Okay.
You got to work at a top speed when you're broadcasting.
So Buck Martinez is just one of us, is what you're saying, eh?
Buck Martinez is just one of the lads. Yes.
All right, that's beautiful. Well, this one's to you, Buck Martinez. Shout out, thumbs up from us at Buds and Blue Jays. Keep on keeping on, my guy. All right, Riley, are you ready to get into the game we're going to play here?
Yeah, I love games. Let's see what's going on.
Yeah, buddy. So this is basically pretty simple. I'm going to name a sentence and you're going to tell me what are the chances this is going to come true. Some are going to be much higher than others, and then we can get into details of what we think our thoughts are going for this one. But I want to start with the first one, Riley. We've been talking cautiously about the Toronto Blue Jays all offseason. We still think they're a good team. A lot of projections do think they're a good team, but I think there is more of a bottoming out for this Toronto Blue Jays team than we've had in the years past. So I want you to tell me, what are the odds the Toronto Blue Jays do? Everything falls out, we become sellers at the trade deadline, and this becomes a disastrous season for the Toronto Blue Jays. What are the odds?
I'm going to say out of 10, I'm going to say that we become sellers 1 out of 10.
Yeah, like we finished 5th in the division. We're moving Vlad. We're moving Bo at the deadline. Like, what are the odds that?
Well, there's a difference. That we fall to the bottom of the division. I'm going to say there's a 2 out of 10. I'm going to say that we actually sell guys off is a 1 out of 10. I think there's a difference that there's false hope. And we lose out pretty bad, early September or whatever the case. But for the sake of the question, 1 out of 10.
Okay, I like that one. I think there is more of a chance that this does happen than not, but I still think if you're a betting man, the Blue Jays should be a good team. I think we're probably, as things stand right now, around that 500 mark or so. But yeah, I'm probably with you. Maybe 2 out of 10 on the odds that happens there.
Jeez, it scares the heck out of me when you say,
doesn't it?
When you say Blue Jays and 500 team, I go, man, it's just not good enough, man. It's just not good enough. We got to get some production. All right, carry on.
Absolutely. Well, you know what would help getting that production is if we get this, Riley. And I want to know, Riley, what are the odds that we get an MVP season from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. this year?
I'm going to say, he's due. We'll say he's due. I'm going to say that there is a 2 out of 10 chance. I know that seems like very low. That's 20%. But if I look at it like it's a graph and you spin the spinner and it lands on the spot, I would say 20%. And that 20% is basically replicates his 2021 campaign.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the data, Vladdy still hits the baseball so hard. There were some signs of issues, but if the things we've talked about Vlad from the past, like maybe he fixes that mechanical issue we talked about on our last episode, right? Maybe he gets some money out of the multi-year deal with this whole arbitration thing that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going for. There is a realistic chance Vladimir Guerrero Jr. can still go out there, lead all of baseball in home runs, take this team on his back. It's still in there. I haven't seen any declines with that. The more seasons he plays, the more that 2021 season kind of looks like an outlier in his data set. But I do think it's still in there. And yeah, 20% sounds about right. I want to go higher. My heart wants to go higher, but my head says no.
I want to go higher too. I would love to say 50-50, but I just simply can't, man, based off of recent statistics.
All right, 20% sounds good for Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but we hope we get one from you this year. Our next one, Riley, one of these 4 rookies, Ricky Tiedemann, Damino Palagami, or Relvis Martinez, or Addison Barger, will win Rookie of the Year this year. What are the odds that one of that happens?
I so do not like this because these numbers are going to be so low. I'll say Ricky Tiedemann, and I'll give you this. I'll say 2 out of 10. Everyone else is a 1 out of 10 or less.
Yeah, it seems unlikely. There are going to be some good rookies in the American League. Only, I guess, the third base job might have a spot on opening day with the team, too. Everyone else isn't going to be on the team on opening day. So one of them would have to really explode. The odds are very low for this one, Riley. The Blue Jays have only had 1 Rookie of the Year in team history. We got to get another one eventually, But yeah, I'm with you. I think this one is quite low as well.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Yeah, the 2002 Rookie of the Year. Maybe we'll talk about him later on in the episode when I ask you a couple questions from my quiz, Jesse.
All right, I love that. My next one, Riley, is what are the odds that the Blue Jays have 5 or more All-Stars this season?
Ooh, I'm taking 5 All-Stars right now. And I'm saying that I'm going to say 6 out of 10, 5 All-Stars, because we're going to do a great job to vote them in this year.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to say 6 out of 10, and I think 5 or more is great, but I think 5 is a great number, and I will say 6 out of 10.
I think we had 4 last year, and that included Whit Merrifield as one of them. We will see how things go, but yeah, it's possible. but I don't think Springer's getting there. You kind of need one or even two of your starters to get there, and then you need Vlad and Bo, and then maybe like a Jordan Romano type, and that's probably the recipe for how you're going to get your 5 All-Stars for the Toronto Blue Jays this year. Riley, my next one. What are the odds that someone other than Jordan Romano leads the Blue Jays in saves this year?
1 out of 10. And I say that in confidence. In our previous episode, we discussed guys who could be having a step back. And that could be Jordan Romano. But I do not believe that his role as the closer will change. I think nothing is set in stone. But I think if there's almost one certainty from the bullpen side, it's that Jordan Romano's got the 9th. It's going to have to take a whirlwind, his season being thrown upside down very early on for this to change. And then it comes down to, well, who do you put the faith in? And that's so yet to be determined. Like, what is Chad Green going to do? What can Swanson be this year? There's just so much going on with that. I got to say 1 out of 10 in hopes that, that basically huge failure. That would what it would be if he gets, if he does not lead the team in saves, something has gone horribly wrong with Jordan Romano's season.
Say he struggles right off the hop, like that opening series, that opening road trip, Jordan Romano struggles quite frequently. How many blown saves do you think it would have to take for him to lose his job?
I think so. Let's take 10 appearances. Like I would say if he has 5 blown saves over 10 appearances, like I think that's the bottom line right there, is if you're blowing 50% of your games.
Yeah, and I still think even if he's not as good as he was last year, it's going to take more than that for Jordan Romano to lose his job.
And that warrants that we have another, setup guy that's pitching really well that's going to take on that role, because there's no sense in taking Romano out of that role if no one can step up and pitch as well as what we think Jordan Romano can be as our closer.
So Nate Pearson, I guess, is what you're saying.
I guess put Nate Pearson down for 21 saves this year. He won't have as much as Romano, who will have 24. But watch Nate Pearson chalk him up this year.
Okay, I love that. I would love to see that. We are also hoping for a bounce back from this next player, Riley. And I'm saying, what are the odds that Alejandro Kirk bounces back and puts together another Silver Slugger season this year?
I am probably, sadly, and I just don't like be this. I listen to my heart a lot, and I give Alejandro Kirk way too much hate on this channel. I really do. This, Jesse Burrell, is not one of those times. I'm going to say that there is a 7 out of 10. Actually, I'll go as high as I'll say 8 out of 10. Kirk bounces back.
Wow.
I'm not saying he's going to put up his all-star year numbers in 2022, but I'm going to say that a bounce back is going to include a better OPS involved in that. Maybe not as many long balls, but his on base percentage is going to be better, and his slugging will improve because he's getting more hits. I'm going to say 8 out of 10 that he has a bounce back year. Maybe he's not an all-star, but I would consider it a bounce back. If he puts up better numbers than he did last year.
Yeah, I'm finding this hard to believe, Riley. I am so out on an Alejandro Kirk being an offensive threat at all. Like, his barrel percentage went down significantly. And even in that year, Riley, where he was a Silver Slugger, he was an all-star, he really had 6 good weeks. That was it. He was kind of just meh the rest of the season. And even if you look into that further, I think Alejandro Kirk had like double digits in infield singles, which just never happens, especially for a guy that slow. So I think he way overperformed too much. And I think last year was more of the offensive player Alejandro Kirk is. And unless I see something dramatic, like he's added some muscle this offseason or something, or all of a sudden he's gotten faster, that's the only way I can see Alejandro Kirk coming into an offensive threat here. I'm out. I am out. And MLB rankings put him as the 7th best catcher in baseball this season. I'm out on that too, man. I do not think this is going to happen. We'll give it, I guess, a 2 out of 10 on the bounce back-o-meter.
Jesse, we 8 and 2. At least we came to the number 10. They did not have, and that list. And I was okay with that list. I read the comments. A lot of people had something to say about their team's catcher and whatever else. That's all fine. Did Danny Jansen deserve to be on that list? Maybe not. Maybe not. Do you and I think so? Absolutely. And I've said this, if you're playing the drinking game at home, how much we, crap on Kirk and how much we hype up Jansen, then, swig another one, because I'm going to say it again. I think Danny Jansen might be the most underrated player in Major League Baseball. And if Kirk doesn't bounce back, I have full faith that Danny Jansen, and criminally has not been a full-time catcher in Major League Baseball, had his best season last year, and there's so much more in his game, and we're good either way. If Kirk bounces back, that's great. If not, that stinks. But Danny Jansen is a big game player.
And while we're at it, let's talk Danny Jansen, because my next one is on him, Riley, and that is Danny Jansen will lead the Blue Jays in home runs this season. What are the odds?
I'm going to say 4 out of 10.
Okay.
Which seems like a high number. But let's just kind of draw out a scenario. This means Danny Jansen is an everyday player. He gets time at DH. He catches some innings. Like, he has real potential to hit 30 home runs. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true, Jesse. We both know that. It's statistics.
30 home runs would have led the teams last year.
Yeah, that's what I'm going off of. And if Vladdy craps to bed, if Varsho decides that he doesn't, play baseball, and Springer doesn't have 30 in him, and I doubt Bo does, because a lot of those are just straight-laced doubles. There's as you say, there's a non-zero chance that he does. And I'm going to say 4 out of 10 just to be fun about it, because I love Danny Jansen. And if he put up a 30 spot this year, I'd be just astounded. Danny Jansen, criminally underrated. Would love to see him lead the Blue Jays in home runs, but not because we couldn't get it from the other guys, just because he has a monster year at the plate.
I like Danny Jansen to do this because he pulls the ball and he hits it in the air, which is the Marcus Semien formula for hitting, and has done well with success. I still think Vladdy's probably the favorite to lead the team in home runs, but Danny Jansen's got to be top 3, and all it takes is one good hot streak for him to get there. I like this one more than you should think, Riley. My next one for what are the odds, and that involves George Springer. And what are the odds come the end of the season George Springer is still our leadoff hitter?
I'm going to say that this is a 6 out of 10. And baseball can be so formulaic sometimes. And I'm going to be honest, and I think I'm not the only one here who agrees that, George Springer should not be our leadoff hitter. We're kind of playing old timey 70s, 80s, and 90s baseball here. We're like, oh, he's batted leadoff since, he was in Houston. Like, he's the leadoff hitter. First of all, when George Springer was the leadoff hitter for Houston, me being, a boomer in baseball, didn't think he had the body as a leadoff hitter. Tall strike zone, a lankier guy. Like, he's not a real compact guy. So right off the bat, 2017, 2016 George Springer, I'm like, I don't know if this guy's a leadoff hitter. Sure, he was. His numbers backed it up. He's the second most powerful leadoff hitter in history. Ricky Henderson had, because Ricky Henderson played from age 20 to like 42. But honestly, I don't know how much you're going to factor in speed. We're looking at guys with good on-base percentage backed up with some good slugging in the 2 and 3 hole. Like, I think Bo Bichette's should be our leadoff hitter statistically.
I agree. I'm with you.
This is kind of an old-timey, like, veterans getting what they have gotten in the past kind of thing. I think there's a good chance he still hits leadoff for us. And I bet you there's going to be a handful of games in the first 2 months he doesn't hit leadoff, just to switch it up, just to see, get a new recipe going for the team. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I bet you George Springer is either taking a day off or he's batting DH and hitting leadoff in the game, that leads off the next series or whatever. But I'm going to say 6 out of 10, he is the leadoff hitter at the end of the year. And also, Jesse, we could see a real change in spring training where he bats leadoff in spring training. In that first series at the Trop, George Springer's in the 5 hole. I mean, a lot can happen, but I'm going to say, based off the way John Schneider currently thinks, and I'm sure he's reflected a lot on last season, but I'm going to say that he will hit leadoff probably to start the year. And there's a decent chance that he does finish the year as our leadoff hitter as well.
Yeah, there was a time in the second half last year where the Blue Jays did take George Springer out of that leadoff spot. I think it only lasted about 3 weeks before John Schneider was like, we're putting George back up there. Maybe it's just a comfort thing. Maybe it's what he's always done. But if we are worried about a decline from George Springer's bat, having him in the leadoff spot, getting all those at-bats might not be the best for team success either. I do think by the end of the year, Bo Bichette will be our leadoff hitter, but there's also a very real world where George Springer stays a good bat and he stays there all year. 6 out of 10 sounds right, Riley. I'm going to go 4 out of 10. That he'll end the season as our leadoff hitter.
Sure. Just copy what I do. We'll just add it up to 10. One of us is
Perfect.
The glass half full. The other is half empty. Well, I'm fine with that.
Speaking of half full,
like close enough to 50-50, Jesse, where we can see it happening or not happening.
Speaking of glass half full, Riley, this is a player we've talked about who we think last episode is going to have a good offensive season, so I'm just doubling down on that, and that is Dalton Varsho, Riley. And what are the odds for Dalton Varsho is he will break out in a big way and has a career-best offensive season for Dalton Varsho this year?
I'm going to say that is a 5 out of 10, and I will tell you what, he will put up better numbers this year than he did in 2023. He simply has to.
Yes.
The laws of averages, as if I don't even know, like he might not have a significantly better batting average, but he will have a better batting average, and he will put up better power numbers. Like Dalton Varsho is a very toolsy player, and for a guy who I thought when he came here could hit 5th in this lineup, was basically bottom 3 material throughout the entire season. I mean, it has to get better, right? I say that, and kind of grit my teeth afterwards, meaning like it's going to look really bad if he doesn't have a little bit of the upside that we saw trading away Gabriel Moreno and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. By the way, as we've said before, just to bring it back, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. would have led the Toronto Blue Jays in home runs.
Yes, he
when he was with the Diamondbacks. When he came off a year where I get he was hurt, put up single-digit home runs. And then, Gabriel Moreno did a thing where he didn't lead a young Diamondbacks team to the World Series, but he certainly helped them out in the postseason. Mm-hmm. That's a young player and an already great resume. And as far as what the Blue Jays got in return, I hope 2024 is very good to Varsho. I'm going to cut it right in half and say that he maybe doesn't have an offensive outburst by any means, but he puts up respectable numbers.
I think so too. I'm banking actually really hard. I've said my case in the other episode, so you won't have to hear it here. But Dalton Varsho is going to have a very big season next year. That I am actually quite confident in, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of Dalton Varsho and the performance he can put together next year. Riley, 2 more to go, and this one is about Bo Bichette, one of our better players. We've already talked last episode about how we thought Bo Bichette could get into the MVP conversation, but I want to talk about his speed, Riley, and his footwork. And what are the odds that Bo Bichette finds his foot speed again and him on the base path becomes a true weapon in his game again? What are the odds on that?
I'm gonna say 2 out of 10. I don't think Bo is going to run the bases. I hope he runs the bases smart. First of all, I'll say that. Now we're going to look at it from scoring runs. I don't think he steals more than 5 bases, and I think he should be a little less aggressive on the base paths. I think range as a shortstop isn't based off speed. It's a good read. Yep. It's a good first step. I mean, Cal Ripken Jr. wasn't especially fast, but he could read a ball. I mean, there's a lot of good shortstops like that. Bo Bichette has so much potential. As we know, he's getting better defensively. I don't think, being able to track a ball versus running a ball down, 2 totally different things. I think he's got the necessary speed to play his position. But as far as the offensive side of the ball, I think Bo hit 1 triple last year, whatever. He's not going to steal a ton of bases. He's not a traditional speed guy. I think we can forget about, a 2020 year for Bo Bichette.
It's just weird, and I've said this in the past, and I'll say it again here, how a guy, especially as young as Bo Bichette, who's only 25 years old, just suddenly gets slower. I feel like that's just weird for a guy. Maybe it could be the case of the Blue Jays are telling him not to run as much because they kind of need him to run the offense there, but it's weird how a 25-year-old can just run slower like that. His sprint speed's down, Riley, into the bottom 30% of the league, and coming up as a prospect for Bo Bichette, I did not think that was possible. I thought speed was always be a part of his game, so I'm with you. It's hard for a guy just to decide, hey, I'm going to run faster without putting in a lot of intense training in the offseason. So we can probably nip this in the bud pretty early in spring training once we see how Bo Bichette looks running the field and stuff. And if he's better, then sure, it'll go well. But if not, it's probably more of the same for Bo Bichette on the base paths.
I mean, hey, speed kills. Look at the say it again, the Diamondbacks and how they stole bases. Like I don't think the Jays have ever been a team that has been a real threat to run the bases and run the bases well, or let alone have guys at the top of the leaderboard for stealing bases. Like, you can forget about that. And yeah, it is weird with how Bo Bichette has gone on. Won't spend too much time addressing why he can or cannot run. He has the tools that he does. If anything, we could have another 50-minute episode on how the Jays should run the bases this year versus how they did last year. Aggressive is good, but I mean, we got to be sure of these things. It's the thing we dislike about Bo Bichette's game for sure. But it's there. We got basically a 5-tool player lacking a little bit of speed at a premium position.
And we'll take that for everything else Bo Bichette does for this team, so we are not too worried about that. Riley, my last one, and we haven't talked a lot of pitchers on this episode, so I'm going to bring up a pitcher on this one. What are the odds that Chris Bassitt, the Hound Dog, goes out and throws 200 innings pitch again this year? What are the odds?
Ooh, I'm gonna say 6 out of 10, and he is the fine wine of pitchers right now in Major League Baseball. He came on the scene with the White Sox, pitched like 4 innings with them or whatever it was, went to my Oakland Athletics and he did well. He wasn't the greatest for Oakland. He certainly wasn't their ace, but he was an innings eater, but didn't eat a ton of innings. Went to the Mets, had the best year to his career at that point, and landed a Blue Jay, pitched great. I mean, is he going to repeat what he did last year? Probably not, but 200 innings, I'm going to say 6 out of 10. I really think Chris Bassitt is a great right-handed arm for Major League Baseball. I can't see him tipping the scales too much and taking a tremendous step back. Yeah, he's 34 or 33, whatever, but I mean, hey, not a lot of signs. And he just had a child as well. I don't.
Congratulations to Bassitt.
I don't have kids, but I hear the age-old tale. Oh, kids will keep you young. So hopefully Bassitt stays young over this offseason, can haul 200 innings of work again. That'd be fantastic.
Wise parenting advice from Riley McConnell on the show.
Don't say that. That sounds ridiculous. Do not say that.
Come to Buds and Blue Jays for the witty baseball talk and stay for some parenting advice. There you go. That's what you get here from us on Buds and Blue Jays. That's it for my game here, Riley. You had something fun you wanted to play to bring us up here, and you kind of teased it a little early in the episode. So I'll let you take the reins here. And what you got?
Yeah, I am a bit of. It's not a long game, and actually, we were at the 53-minute mark or whatever else. Yeah. Man, there's nothing to talk about. And you and I have been going with our immaculate grids, and I've been just a baseball nut on YouTube trying to watch videos and find videos and come up with like original content. And of course, like depends on the day, we can be creative or we're not creative. But to something you like that I could care less about, that gauges how good a player is WAR, or wins above replacement. And
WAR's not perfect, but it does tell a story. Yeah,
it tells a story, Jesse, and you have told the story so far for weeks on end now with our Toronto Blue Jays. And if you follow Buds at Buds and Blue Jays for our Twitter handle, every day we have counting down to one day before opening day. I think today we actually had Alejandro Kirk on our countdown for our WAR. But yeah, I'm looking at single seasons though, Jesse, and I'm going to pick a player. And I'm going to pick a season that they had and match them up with another player in a season that they had. And you tell me who had the higher WAR. I only got 3 rounds of this. We're just going to do a quick, have a little fun. And I'm going to be honest. These are very close.
Okay, I'm ready.
So without further ado, who had the higher WAR? A 2002 Eric Hinsky, Rookie of the Year.
Rookie of the Year season, yeah.
I'll bring that back right now. Or a 2002 Alejandro Kirk, 20 years removed, mind you. Who had the higher WAR?
So that was Kirk's 2022 season where he was an all-star and a silver slugger, and then Eric Hinsky's Rookie of the Year season. I think Hinsky had 26 or so home runs that year, which I'd assume would probably put him higher playing defense at third base. The problem is with WAR, and you're using Baseball Reference WAR, I assume, right?
I am, because it's easy. It's easier to use. I'm sorry, I'm not as big of a baseball nerd as you and get into the super
One day, Riley.
stuff. One day, man, you can't teach an old dog too many new tricks.
I'm gonna go with Alejandro Kirk here just because he is a catcher and they do value catcher defense quite a bit in those WAR formulas. So I'm gonna go with Alejandro Kirk.
They do value the defense of a catcher. Sadly, it was Hinsky. Hinsky's 4 WAR against Alejandro Kirk's 3.9. I told you.
Damn.
They
were close.
Jesse, I made this as tough as I could. You're a Blue Jay nut. So the fact that you didn't get that is fine. We're going to stack two other players now. A 2000 Tony Batista versus a 2005 Frank Catalanato.
If you guys know the answer at home, please leave a comment, or if you're on our Facebook page, leave a comment there. If you think you know the answer, we will put it up on stage. We'll give you a shout out, toss you some points for that. I'm pretty sure just from doing our WAR list that 2000 Tony Batista season was his 40 home run season, or his 48 or whatever it was that he hit. Frank Catalanato was really good in 2005, but I'm going to go with Tony Batista as the WAR guy here.
You're 0 for 2, Jesse.
Oh, man.
I'm Jesse. This is a psycho quiz because Frank Catalanato 2.5 WAR, Tony Batista 2.4.
Yeah, it must be the outfield defense for Frank Catalanato that they like.
I was not, Jesse. You're a smart lad. I was making this as tough as I can. All right, shake that off. Even if you go 0 for 3, you're still a winner in my books. Let's hit you with one more. Let's hit you with a World Series champion, a 1993 Devon White versus a 1999 Sean Green. So now we're getting into some higher WAR, maybe a little higher than the guys we had before.
So Sean Green, that was his Gold Glove Silver Slugger year with the team. I remember Devon White. I think he had a 5.3-ish WAR that season. Now the question is, do I think Sean Green had more than that? I'm 0 for 2, shot in the dark. I'm going to go Sean Green here, Riley, just because he got the awards. He got all that stuff. I love Devon White, and I love good center field defense, but I'm going to go with Sean Green here.
You know what? It didn't matter the first two because you're going out a winner. You got that right. 1999,
boom, baby.
Sean Green, 6.4 WAR matched up with a Devo with a 6.3 WAR.
6.3 WAR, wow.
Versus 6.4. I told you I was going decimal points difference. Jesse, you know your Blue Jays, you know your baseball. I had to make this quiz as tough as I possibly could, man. I'm not going to ask you the ma and pa silly questions, man. I want to know, how much you know. Let's crack open big baseball brain ears. And hey, 1 for 3 in a quiz made by a psychopath is pretty darn good. So I congratulate you, and I'm sorry I put you through that, Jesse.
Well, you know what they say in baseball, Riley? If you go 1 for 3 every single day, you're a Hall of Fame player.
That's a 333 average. I mean,
yeah,
you're hitting like Ty Cobb as far as that goes.
Well, there's our round of applause for that there. Anything else to add, Riley? Or I think we can get out of here and call our episode for today.
No, what a mixed bag. Our Facebook debut, I think it couldn't have gone any better. A little taste of everything. If you're listening to us, following us on Facebook. I mean, Jesse and I have fun like this all the time. I mean, yes, we do have some more serious conversations when things are rolling good. But for now, we're a little loosey-goosey. It's the off season. Play a little bit of games. We're itching for baseball to come back. We hope that you join us. And that's all I got, man. Another good one. Follow us on on Twitter. Again, the if you're doing immaculate grids, the J's that come up in those are fun to use.
Yeah, and
On
tag
your
us.
immaculate
Tag us
grids.
in the immaculate grids when you
Yes.
do those.
Yes.
We want to see
Please
those.
do that. See if you can beat my score. I got my personal best in a long time. 26 matches my baseball number. And I used Tony Batista on it too. That's
Even better.
And Troy Gloss and Scott Rowland. That's one of the best immaculate grid. I sent it to you the other day. I was so proud of that grid. It was an absolute classic. If I can get if I get Scott Rowland on a grid and 20 rarity score, I mean, you're doing something right. Can't remember what box it was, but something that I caught someone sleeping on because they missed a Hall of Famer.
So you hear that, immaculate grid and baseball references. Look at all the free press we're giving you. If you want more shout outs, feel free to come sponsor our show. We'll get it there and we'll get that talking to you. But that's going to do it for episode.
One more thing, and if you're posting your immaculate grid scores, it's okay to cheat. But don't post it. Don't post it and pretend that you're some baseball genius. Don't say, oh, yeah, I'm going to take Luke Robitussin, who...
guy who played in like the 1930s or whatever, played 6 games for the Cleveland Brown Stockings, or...
Of course, my rant gets cut off. I'm not even going to repeat what I said. I don't care. But if you're be honest, because at least if I look up a player for my own purpose, I don't post my score. But anyways, yes, be honest on immaculate grid, because I am too. If I post it, I didn't cheat. If there's a day or two where I didn't post it, I either did not get immaculate, got over 100. Or I had to look a player up just for my own reference. That's why it's there. Baseball reference.
Well, that's good. Well, that'll do it for episode here today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you for joining us live on Twitter and live on Facebook for our Facebook live streaming debut. Our plan is to get live on other platforms as we go on. Please make sure you follow us on those platforms, as well as on TikTok and Instagram at Buds and Blue Jays. You can find us there. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. We need to hit 500 subscribers so we can go live on there as well. And we are 77 days away from opening day. It'll be here sooner and quicker before you know it. Again, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week. And hopefully we have some transaction news or something else to discuss then. But until then, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.